Welcome to Biggest Geekus. We are your hosts. I am Joe.
And I'm Randy.
This is episode 178 of the show, and the date is Tuesday,
February 13th.
February 13th,
I left it off.
2024. It's just Tuesday.
Taco Tuesday. Yep.
Yeah. The date isn't important to
Not
Randy this
really.
time around.
I noticed that when I was screwing around. I'm like, man, I left the day off. Crazy
Okay.
town.
Tuesday,
Looks like we got
February 13th. One day before Valentine's Day.
Yeah. Do you and your wife celebrate that? We don't really do much for that.
Not really. I got her a couple of things. She likes chocolate, so I got her chocolate.
Yeah. Looks like we got the usual suspects in the house. Elle,
Yeah.
Arnman, Darth, Larry, Halcyon, Martinson, Patrick.
It looks like my clickbait ploy didn't work all that well at the moment,
It's all right.
because today is going to be a bloodbath.
It is. It's going to be a mess. I don't people missing this one. It's going to be crazy.
Knockdown. I can't remember the phrase. Drag out? No.
Knockdown, drag out. Yeah, that's what it's called.
Okay, knockdown, drag out, battle royal, cage match.
Yes.
No holds barred contest between the legacy of Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson.
Yeah. Ultra American and Mac have squeezed in. So Mac says, obvious, Gary wins. Next topic. Oh, yeah. So Ultra American gave us a little props, or gave me a little props on X. He posted a picture of my sweet module. He got it finally in the mail. So I was glad to see that.
I reposted that out on X.
Yeah.
Twitter, for those of you who are not aware of its new title.
X is better.
Only in that it references by happenstance the X-Men.
That's why I think so.
Yeah.
And I'm sure
I
it
figured.
references the pre-19 or the mid-1990s or earlier X-Men, none after the 2000s. But so we played and we did it live.
We did it live. For those of you who missed it,
Yeah.
we do have a video of our last live play or online game that we turned into a live play.
Right.
It's no frills, just us playing.
Yeah, we were just kind of figuring it out, and yeah, it was fun. I was surprised. I'm surprised people hung around and watched it, but that was kind of cool. So
Yeah, people did.
But,
they watched us play our elf game online.
it
was a bit gratifying.
It was absolutely cool. So I'm glad folks enjoyed it, and we're going to try to do it again. Hopefully in 2 weeks. That'll be the plan. Maybe Joe can even put up a little thing and say, "Hey, Ardman says Randy goes down round 1 again."
Again.
That is my modus operandi. My cleric just gets punked. Oh, okay.
What he did? So Elle says, I assume Sean will react later today. He reacted to the Divide the Hobby stream last night.
I don't know what that is, but okay, he can. I'm sure he won't like it. It's not his style, so it's okay. He's welcome to his own.
Darth Thick has some choice words to say about the fight between Gygax and Arneson. It has absolutely no effect on me, Darth. I find it pointless. The fight is kind of clickbaity, so this is not quite that. I was trying to just grab some people's eyeballs.
Joe was clickbaiting it, which is cool.
Yeah.
The fight between them was over several years before either of them passed, which was good news. And that's one nice thing I can say about WotC. They helped mend some fences. At least that's what I've heard.
Yeah.
So anyway, but yeah, did you get any other gaming in besides the Horde Wars game, which was fun? I liked
had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I had some initial trouble with my dice rolling very low.
Yeah, you didn't have yours wasn't great that night.
Well, after the first couple of rounds, I got back to being normal, average, but wow, I rolled in 3 D12 rolls. Oh no, 3 Yeah, D12 rolls. I rolled a 1, a 2, and a 3.
I had some problems with my character's body getting mauled by a bunch of beetles.
Yeah,
That
your
was a problem.
those beetles enjoyed some Randy cleric flesh.
They did, dude. They kicked my face in. And I'm just like, it doesn't matter, man. I just go down fast. And I'm not like I suck. I do have 22.
No,
Solid.
but it encouraged me because my character leveled after this session to grab the glutton for punishment.
Mm-hmm.
So
nice.
So now he has 26 hit points. So
shouldn't you have more than that? Because I think you get 2 hit points for leveling anyway.
I only had 18.
Okay. So you weren't a big pimp like me.
No.
Yeah.
So what do you have? 28?
22.
So you didn't take the glutton for punishment.
No.
So you would have had 28.
I had 20 at the beginning. I could have had 28, but
so what did you pick for your level 2 thing?
I bumped my ride skill to 3, and then I proceeded not to roll worth a dang, and I couldn't. I'm like, look how good I am, and Larry's like, oh, I got a 14 on ride. I'm like, I got a 4, and then I got a 6, and I'm supposed to be the king of riding.
I know that at some point I'm probably going to pick that perk, but it seems a little bit less. I like to have an extra hit points.
Yeah, and I was there's a lot of things to choose from, which is fun, but I just thought my guy, I was either going to take, I decided, is Arneson sees a surprise you didn't take a focus. Are you talking about a skill focus?
Skill focus.
That's what I did, and I added it to ride instead of adding it to, I thought about adding survival because we'd done so many survival roles. I figured my guy's finally figuring out how to survive in the woods. We did so many traveling in the Witchwood, but I went ahead and just took ride because
I didn't have any trouble missing my rolls by 1 a lot.
Yeah.
So that focus is the +1 on a skill check, essentially.
Yeah, but you only get so good because I've seen previews of advanced. But eventually you'll choose it, if not early. You know me, I just kind of do the role playing. I'm kind of like, okay, what's my character done? What would make sense to advance? Because at first I was going to take magic, and I was like, why would I take that skill? I know people wanted it when you were gone that one time. We didn't have any magic people, but I was like, we got Joe, and my guy's not really been trying to do magic stuff, so I'm sticking with supernatural.
Right.
Calling it good. Yeah, but it was fun. Had a good time.
And since I try to mix it up a lot, I figure might as well get a few extra hit points. I know that all the skills will go up by 1 when we get to the new tier at 5th level.
True.
So in between now and then, I'm going to get at least 1 more perk. So I might as well. I can wait. Yeah. Huh?
Hey.
At 4th level. Yeah.
Poof! Flint Fire Forge is in the house. And so is Green Apple. Oh, I didn't see that. It's good to see Green Apple. We got a good crew in Arnman's here too. So we've already pimped him out because he's awesome. And I guess I didn't read the Dracaran description well enough, but they're like a little bit bigger than halflings. I'm like, why are we afraid of these little lizard dudes again?
Well, when we heard Dracaran, we just thought they were big lizard men.
Yeah, I thought they were like big, like dragon dudes, and they're small dragon dudes. But
yeah, they're like kobolds, but a little bit bigger.
But apparently they're tough and they're mean because they like slavery. And Joe and I played slaves. Joe does not play a slave well. I did. Joe hated being a slave. I kind of did too, but I try not to let it show. Which we are still next session, still slaves.
Yeah. Well, we're posing as we're not
posers,
officially.
Right? Posers.
Well, considering where we're at, the claim that we are pretty much just that. Pretty sure that makes us that if our other party members get killed, we're going to be kind of screwed.
Oh, our man was talking about ability focus.
Yeah.
Spell. Oh, that's probably tempting.
Yeah.
Now, I would think adding +1 to combat would be a good move. You can be +3, which is not bad on a D12. That's +1's a +1, but it's a higher boost than a +1 on a D20.
Yeah, it's not bad, but it's still, again, I'm not finding a +1. I'm either rolling low, really low, or hitting pretty good, not the missing by 1 a lot. But again, I'm going to take it at some point. And when we hit the next tier, all of our known skills are going to go up by 1 as well. So that'll help too.
Flady is a little disappointed He said he's still working, but he's lurking. You got to talk to your bosses, dude. They need to know better than to like make you work.
Right.
So, a long shot. Oh man, but it was fun, and I'm looking forward to the next
Yeah,
time.
it was fun.
This Saturday, I'm going to be playing the Minders game. I'm going to be running, so that'll be fun.
Let's say that again.
I'm running the Minders game this Saturday.
Oh yeah,
with the guys with Ben and the crew.
Just make sure it's a TPK, and we'll all be good.
That's what I'm shooting for. Yeah, if I can kill everyone, then I'll feel I can put a little bow on the campaign, and we'll call it good.
Right. Okay, so are we ready to move on to our main topic?
Let's do it, baby.
All right. So when Randy sent me the outline, his title was, more reasonable. Who is the true dungeon master, Gary or Dave? Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, that's not going to get anybody watching the stream that doesn't already. So I'm going to make it a duke out, a battle royale, and all that. And then I used their last names too. Anyway, Randy supported both of these on Kickstarter.
I did. So I got the Secrets of Blackmoor. Looks like it came out in 2019. I kickstarted that and got my DVD.
Yeah.
Now the Dreams in Gary's Basement, I believe it started in 2018, but Patrick Kilbane, by the way, Secrets of Blackmoor, A True History of Dungeons and Dragons is by Chris Graves and Griffith Mon Morgan. I've heard of Griffith. I'm actually part of his, I subscribe to his YouTube channel, but they were pretty good about getting their stuff out. I even got a Vimeo, V-I-M-E-O video of that early. I could have watched it. I didn't because I'm not going to do that. And then the Dreams in Gary's Basement was in 2018. I remember them being there at Gen Con and they were filming for that. And I said, what are you guys doing? They said, we're doing this documentary on D&D called The Dreams in Gary's Basement. I was like, sweet. And I got in on it late, but it took them till 2023 to get through a lot of muck. They had a lot of legal ramifications and issues. So yeah, that was pretty interesting. Ultra American says he knows about Gary, but not Dave. Well, good. You're going to learn. You might learn a little bit then. We're not going to do too much of the history.
Well,
I would encourage you to watch it.
Depending on when you started playing, there's good reason for you not to know who Dave is.
Well, yeah,
mainly because of how things went down at TSR. A lot of people, at least a lot of people I knew. Everybody talked about Gary. Almost nobody talked about Dave.
We didn't know for years. I had never heard of Dave Arneson.
Right.
I mean, we had the original basic books. We went red and blue, expert, and then we switched to AD&D, and Gygax was the dude for us.
Right.
We didn't even know Arneson was a person in the whole mix.
Right.
Let alone Dave Wesley, which I think is pretty fascinating.
And the thing that a lot of people hear and pass on, whether it's true or not, I think probably it's not as true as it has been told. The whole thing about Dave having a few unorganized notes that he turned into Gary, and that's about it. I think that's from watching Secrets of Blackmoor. I think that's probably pretty much not true.
I think though,
unorganized notes maybe, but
yes, but I think
saying that that's all he contributed is no.
I don't think that's all that he contributed. I think he was if you go all the way back, I mean, Secrets of Blackmoor, which Joe was lamenting a little bit, they dive into what's called the Brownstein campaign, where they took on the Napoleonics war game, and David Wesley from the Minnesota Gaming Group, this was around the 71, decided to run this Brownstein campaign where each player was going to be assigned a character, and they had some goals, and he thought, and we talked about it before, it's pretty fascinating. He thought it was a big colossal failure because they would leave the room after they would talk with him as the ref, and they would do machinations on their own. The players loved it. Arneson played in it and got killed like in the first couple of hours of the game, so he was out. And I don't even think Wesley had planned for personal combat in that game. And then Wesley's idea was was the seeds of role playing. Arneson's the one that turned it into Blackmoor, which was the first fantasy campaign. And he was the guy that said, hey, we're going to play actual characters going into dungeons to face monsters and get loot.
Right.
and he built his own rules. And then he took it to Gygax later on, who was working for Guiding Games. I think he was still working for Guiding Games. And Gygax is the one that turned it. I believe Gygax was the major mover that turned it in, with some help from other people, that turned it into a real phenomenon. I mean, because Gygax was known for being really good about putting stuff out. He was very prolific in the wargaming scene, writing in the magazines. So it seems like, while I wouldn't say Arneson did nothing, I do think Gygax ended up doing the majority of the work for Dungeons and Dragons production and growth.
Right. So coming up with the game itself, saying that, I think Arneson and Gygax have fairly equal footing, but when we're talking about turning it into a for-profit product, that was seems like, see, they didn't get into that with Secrets of Blackmoor. They didn't get into the business end.
No,
it was all the game prior to the whole movie, covered everything up to Gary and Arneson collaborating, and just prior to just at the start of the game's inception. So, so from the point of view of that movie, it's not clear, how much Arneson might have been involved in the business side and marketing and all that. It seems like Gary was the bigger influence on that end.
Yeah, and Jack the 71st says Arneson brought a lot of innovation to what would become known as D&D. Then he follows it up with Gary was better at marketing. Absolutely, that's you're echoing what I'm thinking. I hope I'm saying. I think his contribution cannot be ignored. You could argue he did create the first real role-playing game, and I think Gygax turned it into the cultural phenomenon that it became.
Right. You couldn't have D&D without either one of them.
That's really the overall clue. I thought Secrets, there were a lot of Arneson friends. He was part of the Minnesota group. Gygax was wargaming in Lake Geneva with the Wisconsin group. And when they met, and he
St. Paul, one of them was from St. Paul.
Okay, yeah, the Minnesota group.
They call it the Twin Cities.
Yeah. There was a couple of different names bandied about the Twin Cities group. It was interesting. I do think after I watched it, that's kind of what I thought going in, so that was confirmed. The Secrets were kind of leaning toward Arneson. Dreams in Gary's Basement was definitely Gygax.
They were both positive for the person that was the focus. So,
but not completely negative against the other either. I don't think they were. They weren't really pooping on the other guy.
No,
because they have definitely. They definitely respected both. Larry Elliott's got a good point. He says, in 20 years, we'll look back on Biggest Geek and wonder who was more important to create it and let the discussions begin. Well, I'll tell you right now, it's this guy. Joe's the one that had the idea for it, and he's doing all the heavy lifting behind the scenes. I mean, I'm just the beautiful talent, and you can't give me credit for that. So, not much more than being beautiful and being talented. Joe did
write the outlines.
I do, yeah, I'll write their outlines. But you're the guy that kind of got this thing off the ground. So I would definitely, in this deal, I would call Joe Arneson, but a very, very powerful Arneson, and not to knock. And I think Arneson won money. They didn't disclose how much. He did win. Initially, I think he only got very little percentage. That felt wrong, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know the details, and honestly, I'm cool with both of them, and I'm glad they both existed. I'm glad they both made the game that I love.
Right. So I think that these are both worth watching, even though Secrets of Blackmoor for me was really hard to get through because the focus of the movie was on how the Brownstein method evolved from wargaming, and the shift from it to a more role-playing game took probably an hour and a half or hour and 45 minutes of its over 2 hours length. So they talked a little bit about pure wargaming at the beginning, and they talked a little bit about D&D at the end. But the vast majority of it was kind of the stretch from one to the other, and got into a lot of minutia about how all of that worked, which for me was kind of tedious. But for someone,
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed
Yeah.
I love the details. I love the description.
there were a lot of good tidbits in it, though.
Yeah, I actually think David Wesley should probably have some credit, but you can't really give him. I guess you can't give him D&D credit, even though from what all I can see from these two videos, he was the guy that brought the first kernel of role playing in. But you could argue he wasn't sure that was even what he was doing,
Right.
at the time.
Right. So the thing is, what they were doing that makes it different from how role playing became in D&D was a lot of times everybody's roles were handed out to them, their goals.
Oh yes,
their who
Not
they
goals.
were even playing.
Yeah.
So
that was the Brownstein setup. You were like, you're playing the Colonel, you're playing student A, you're playing student B. It was the danger of the French Revolution seeping into early era Germany / Prussia, and I don't know what all was happening.
Yeah, it covered a couple of different periods. But they were handed their character, their motivations, and their goals. In D&D, the role that you often pick your role. I mean, I know there's probably some groups out there where the DM hands out the characters, but I don't. I've never participated in one.
Yeah. Now I have in 3rd edition early on. I had a one shot where I gave everybody the character's background, pretty detailed, and connected people together. Yeah, Fireforge. He says, I keep wanting to say the Brownstein Bears. Yeah, I want to type it in there. It's Brown.
It's German.
Yeah, I believe this is the correct type of dilly. So,
right.
We have Abub001. He thinks he might be both Rumble viewers, and I think Abub was in was at Big Geekon last year.
I believe so.
Hey, can you give me a moment? I'll be right back if you can entertain the folks for a minute.
Shall I do a dance?
I think they would love that, and sing.
Sing and dance. You don't want to see me doing either one. And but you do, in my opinion, want if you can get a hold of these movies, and if you're even the slightest interested in the early history of role playing and Dungeons and Dragons in particular, both of these will whet your appetite. If you are into board gaming and you're really a true old schooler, even Secrets of Blackmoor should probably hold your interest. What I will suggest against is how I did it. Is I watched both of them back to back, and I watched Dreams in Gary's Basement first, which covered a little bit of the wargaming past and how he got into his business TSR, and then most of it was about D&D itself and how it ran early on in its rise and then fall and the eventual sale to Wizards of the Coast. It was a good overview from that perspective. And Secrets of Blackmoor, like I already said, it started back in perhaps late 60s from what they were talking about. These groups were playing in their war games, and really took a long time to get all the way to D&D in the last 10 minutes of the movie. So probably your better bet is to watch Secrets of Blackmoor first, if you get both of them, and then Dreams in Gary's Basement, because it follows a little bit more. It'll probably follow that pattern better, at least from my point of view. I watched Gary first and was really struggling through Secrets of Blackmoor. Right. So, yes, Larry Elliott says, smash the like button so Joe will not dance.
You didn't show him your whole routine?
No, nobody wanted that.
Yes, Flint. Joe can impersonate me. No magic items for characters. That's a good impersonation.
Right. So Mac wanted me to shake my moneymaker. And, my name's Joe, not Ho. I mean, that's probably a typo. I'm sure it's a typo.
Joe, not host. Typo.
Typo. Jack, the 71st, the amount of detail in both movies dives into World War game in the 70s into OD&D. Yeah, I think more so with The Secrets of Blackmoor than Dreams in Gary's Basement, though they do get into how he started out in wargaming like everybody did back then.
Yep, it was a thing.
It was all wargaming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The Brownstein thing was actually something that started back in the 1700s, and that, yeah, the method was. They derived it from
Strategos. It was a book called Strategos.
Yeah.
And David Wesley said he read I just saw this where he came on, The Complete Strategist, which was an older book, and a book on how to, in business, how to handle conflicts.
Yeah,
and that was very fascinating. Hey, Patty, what's up? I'm going to try, but I probably won't do well. Abu001, Abub, is over there on Rumble.
Rumbly. So cool. Okay, I have to say something since we're talking about Rumble.
Do it.
If you noticed an earlier live stream announcement that went away, and then 15 minutes later a new one came up, that's because Rumble has its own streaming studio that they started fairly recently, as far as I know. I don't know precisely when. And I was considering, since it's free so far, adopting that instead of StreamYard. So I started building today's stream in Rumble Studio, but it had some hurdles that, while they aren't insurmountable, they're just a bit annoying compared to what we already know how to do from StreamYard. So if you noticed that, I'm sorry if it caused any confusion.
Hey, Joe, did you learn anything new watching those videos? Things that you just did not know that you thought, wow, that's kind of interesting. I didn't know about that.
Yes, in Secrets of Blackmoor, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I learned more about Dave Arneson than I did about Gary Gygax, but I didn't know Gary. So in Blackmoor, I learned a lot about how Arneson evolved from wargaming in the very, very early inception of D&D.
More than you wanted to know.
So my perspective was, because I didn't know, and I just heard from people telling second hand, third hand, 10th hand, that it seemed to me that Arneson was just some random player in the area that was a part of Gary's crew.
Right.
And that they collaborated on some level.
Right.
And that Arneson really wasn't anything before that, which isn't true.
No, he was significant.
So, right. And I even learned there was more to Gary Gygax in the wargaming and writing and game invention thing. Yeah. I just thought his D&D was his first thing.
No, he and Jeff Barrett and Chainmail, and before that he made other
Chainmail. I'm counting Chainmail in that whole thing.
Even pre-Chainmail, he did.
There was stuff before Chainmail, so learned that Gary had this big California spread that.
Yeah, I didn't know it was a mansion, dude. It was.
Yeah.
And he had what did Luke Gygax say in that video? That
lots of cars, lots of company
lots
cars.
of cars, and he was like, they went from being very poor to having lots. And who was the one guy? I think he was a relation of Cynthia Williams. He was the guy, oh gosh, had a mustache, bigger poofy hair, a big ear, a little bit heavier set guy in the Gary's game. They went to him a lot where he talked about, I walked by and there was 2 Playboy bunnies in the hot tub with Gary and whoever else. And I was like, he goes, that's how Luke was raised. And I was like, what?
Oh yeah. I'm like, yeah, okay.
That sounds like a stretch, but maybe.
Well, considering where he was at and how much money he had, you never know.
If you had to percentage wise, and let's just give your opinion, and then I want to go down a different road too. percentage wise, if they had never had issues with finances and they just said we're going to split this way forever, what do you think would have been appropriate a split for Gary and for Arneson and Gygax? Just all the way through, never had a separation.
As far as
when you look back on their contributions to the game,
I really
you can't do it.
No, because when you watch people who are more behind Gary,
yep,
it'll be a 60 or 70, 30 or 40 split.
Right.
If you look at the Arneson side, it kind of flips the other way, maybe 50-50 at best. So it's hard to know when I wasn't present at any of this that went on. I only saw the end product and hear a lot of way second and 10th hand information. So,
well,
I would just say 50-50.
Right. I lean more towards
everything up to, if there wasn't a split, would there have even been a first edition or second edition D&D?
There was people that commented, I think in the Gary article, that Arneson was not happy with the direction of even some of the extra books beyond the 3 white ones. He didn't like some of the rules. I'm with Jack here, the 71st. He says 40-60, and I believe he's going Arneson Gygax. I would too, through first edition. Now, second edition, they're both kind of hosed. So, I mean, they got changed. It's just an opinion. And like Joe said, you said it more eloquently, there's too many people that have second and third hand opinions, and one hand says this, another says that, and you can't really tell. And Jack says, I think it's impossible to really get the truth these days, fellas. There's so much legendary. Yeah, exactly. Rumors and history.
I think our best bet, instead of trying to get to that nitty gritty, is probably just to look at what they contributed, their best stuff that they contributed to the game, and enjoy that.
Yeah, I agree.
About those, and talk about the things that they contributed and did well. Who did the better, the most, and all that. It's impossible for me to say.
I know for me, I can say this. I mean, I can't talk about. I'm with you all the way. If I here say, Randy, who influenced you the most? It was easily Gygax. I just was not in. I didn't play the 3 white books.
Right.
I just didn't, and I didn't play back in the Twin Cities Wargaming group.
Right.
Oh, Iron Man makes a good point. He goes, probably 20% should go to the other players from the first games. Yeah, like David Wesley and some of the other players. That's not the worst idea. It sounds like there were several people that brought a lot of good ideas to the table, like the guy who played the first High Priest and the guy who played the first Paladin and things like that. And who's that dude that played a vampire?
Yeah, I'm like, he was a vampire. I'm like, well, vampires must not have been all that.
Well, from what they said, his character decided to go down into the Blackmoor dungeon, and there was a vampire there, and he got him. And so he made him a vampire, but he continued playing. So I think for me, my influence, though, is clearly Gygax, and I'm glad they both did what they did because I got the game that I enjoyed since I was 12 or 13. Yeah, in the end, that should be it. I think the argument of who's more important is past, and current D&D has really no desire. I think Elle said earlier, there's some video. If I can find it, it was way back before he even started, but he mentioned there was a video. He said Hasbro is still hurting from DNF. I don't know what that is.
Is that an abbreviation of their most recent movie?
Dungeons and Dragons movie. Joe shit on D&D. What? Oh, Joe Manganiello for ending Dragon, I guess. Hasbro make a thank you for 50 years video, but something was missing.
For ending his Dragonlance?
Something. I think Joe Manganiello, Joe Manganiello was going to make a video, or I think videos series of a Dragonlance story, but I don't know exactly, some kind of cartoon thing.
Oh, okay. I heard some mention that was a thing that might happen, and then I've heard some yammerings about Joe kind of not liking or saying a bunch of crap online, and I didn't really look into it.
Yeah, and he mentioned there at the end that L did a thank you for 50 years video was coming out by Hasbro, and that they did not mention Gary or Dave. And me and Joe looked at that, L, and in the end, I think that's weak sauce. But I also respect the fact that they purchased Dungeons and Dragons. It's theirs. WotC did, and then Hasbro did. They made it their own. And some people would say third edition is so far removed from second and first, it's a completely different game. And okay, I'm fine with that. And fourth is vastly different, and fifth is even different again. So if they didn't actually include Arneson and Gary in there, they have the right to do it. I also have the right to think that they're kind of douchebags anyway. So not a fan of them not mentioning.
I wonder how long GE and other companies that made light bulbs thanked Thomas Edison or mentioned Thomas Edison promotionally.
Exactly.
Right. So a lot. So by just not mentioning him at all, either of them at all, or any of, there's plenty of early pioneers in D&D apart from Gary and Dave that worked for TSR, that did cool stuff that would be cool for them to mention. But in this day and age, their audience, like I said to Randy, if Wizards of the Coast said much of anything about Gary, especially, and maybe Dave to some degree, they would get called all kinds of names, and
they'd have
there would be protests and people tearing their hair out. So I don't think it's worth it to them. And most of the people that work at, as far as I know, at Wizards of the Coast are the kind of people that would tear their hair out at the mention of Gary Gygax anyway.
Right.
So, because of course his whole family, are bad people according to them. I was
kind of impressed though with Atkinson's. He seemed to have great respect for them. Peter Atkinson, his couple of comments in Gary's basement, he was definitely a fan of Gygax.
Right.
Patty said, I think he's referring to Joe Manganiello. He was going to do quite a bit of stuff about D&D stuff. Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Correct. Gygax and Arneson, Jack the 71st, also buried the hatchet back in the 90s. And I believe WotC is given some credit for that. Peter Atkinson himself helped to bring them together at a Gen Con, I believe. But don't hold me to that. I got no receipts on that.
Right.
So would you say, okay, I know you said Secrets of Blackmoor was long. Would you say that the Dreams in Gary's Basement is a better video?
I think it's a better done. So Blackmoor, the true history of Dungeons and Dragons, barely talked about Dungeons and Dragons.
It was supposed to be a part 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Dreams in Gary's Basement delivers on that title because it's about Gary.
Yep.
D&D being a major part of it because it was a major part of Gary's life and success. So that made a lot of sense. It was, and they didn't really even talk a lot about Blackmoor.
No.
They mentioned Blackmoor, but it was more about how Brownstein eventually became D&D, and Blackmoor was Arneson's campaign world. And they talked a little bit about that maybe in the last third of the movie. So I think from that point of view, I think Dreams in Gary's Basement's probably better.
It's more easily consumable. You can sit and watch it and not have to. You got to deal with some details. The Secrets of Blackmoor guys, they dig deep in the old, in the beginnings of just the inklings of the game. I enjoyed it. I really wanted to see that. I'm a sucker for that sort of historical thing in my hobbies, and especially D&D. I find that fascinating.
I just think that they went into it was a little tedious.
Okay, fair enough. It may not be for everybody. Now, what did you think of the? Did you find it? What did you think of the fall of Gygax that they portrayed in Dreams of Gary's Basement? The ousting from TSR, that whole process. What were your thoughts on that?
Well, they kind of. I think they were a little short on details. There were more generalizations, and that was probably because of legal reasons.
Yeah.
they essentially chalked it up to him not having sufficient shares.
Yep. And he just couldn't buy. He didn't have the cash to buy them out and to buy the Bloom
He
Brothers
couldn't
out.
buy them out, so he sold a lot of shares to other people, and probably intended to have the majority of shares. But you'd think during his heyday of making so much money that he would have done so, but he probably just counted on it not being an issue.
Well, I think even Tim Kask and some of the others said, when they were watching every year, starting in about 75, D&D a couple years in a row, tripling its value and then tripling again and then doubling, you're like, man, is this never gonna? And I can see if you're not business people, you might think, dude, we're in for a ride.
Right. And
and they were.
They were.
Yeah.
But those rides usually come down. And then if you're good at what you're doing, it'll go back up. Mm-hmm. Maybe not to former heights, because that's hard to catch a genie in the bottle more than once with the same thing.
And so, I know they're biased. Yeah, I agree, Patrick. He said I have that book. Reading the first chapter of Empire of Imagination was kind of heartbreaking. It was dramatic retelling of the day Gygax got ousted. Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I'm sure I'm biased in this, but I don't see some people think of. I know they do think of Cynthia Williams as an evil witch, and maybe she was. I didn't know the lady, but I do think, as much as she might have helped TSR stay afloat, she did so much worse for them. The things she got them involved in and had them doing. And I just think, it feels like, at least from people who have said from TSR, and they didn't have them physically, they didn't actually say it on camera, it was noted. They did say that she did kind of, according to people, she seemed to have enjoy making people suffer that had wronged her, and apparently Gygax had dressed her down at a meeting, and she didn't like that. So,
right,
yeah. Oh, thank you, L. It's Lorraine Williams, correct? Thank you. Yeah, not Cynthia.
Yeah, Cynthia is
it's the current. She's like a.
I thought Cynthia, isn't that the same lady isn't that the name of the lady over at Disney?
I think Cynthia Williams is the one that's head of Magic or WotC, or I don't know. She's some kind of. I could be wrong. I don't know.
Right.
Jack says he laments the fact you never got to see a second edition AD&D by Gygax. Yeah, people say that. They say it would have been. I've heard it would have been more like, what's the one that's? Oh, who's the? I think it's the guy from
Dangerous Journeys.
No, there's a guy that's done a clone that people say is like second edition.
Gold for Golden Glory.
No. That's just a clone of second edition, but he's talking about a true Gygaxian version of second edition, which I don't know what that would have been. I mean, what would Gygax have changed?
Yeah, and unless they had notes from Gary, I don't know how anybody can claim that.
Well, just to claim that he didn't have anything to do with that. So,
no, I'm just saying, if someone's saying this is a Gygaxian second edition, that it seems kind of pretentious.
No, he's saying. Oh, well, right. Okay, I see what you're saying. Right, but people, who's the guy? I can't think of his name.
Kathleen Kennedy is the one I'm thinking of. I don't know how I got Williams.
Yeah.
Cynthia Williams, Kathleen Kennedy doesn't sound anything the same.
Yeah, I don't know how different it would have been had Gygax done it. I'm sure it would have been. It had to have been. He'd been a different creator, and Gygax had a lot of control in it. Would it have been better than second edition? Maybe.
Well, I don't really. Okay, second edition, while it's somewhat different from first, isn't drastically different from first.
No.
It has a little bit different tone, right? Because they kowtowed to whiners back then and decided to take the assassin and the monk and the barbarian out, and had changed demons and devil names and cleaned it up, so to speak.
Yeah, there was some kowtowing.
Yeah. So apart from that, a lot of the game is the same.
There's some
details like spell descriptions and a few other things, but FACO and instead of the charts.
And some folks
And
got put off by training being kind of optional.
right.
Which, I mean,
So
I never liked training anyway.
it switched a bit in tone,
Yeah.
but the procedures that you ran at the table to accomplish your gaming session were largely the same.
I think so. I didn't see a huge difference. I kept running first edition modules through second, so
Right.
I
So
didn't have a problem.
Gary was involved in first edition.
Right.
Would second edition be, if he wrote it, be a large departure, or would he have just maybe re-edited it and done some other things that maybe he wanted to do in first edition but couldn't for one reason or another? I don't know. I mean, first edition is a bit different from BECME, the basic, and OD. It's a lot different from OD&D.
Right.
Because in OD&D, all weapons are D6. I mean, I think one of the primary things that survived OD&D to first edition was rolling the D20.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's another thing. In these movies, it looks like in the war games, and even moving up into the Blackmoor,
Yep,
they were using 2d6.
Yes, they were. Yep.
And that it looked like that's all they rolled.
Yep. And it was Cynthia Williams. I was correct. Not Cindy Williams from Laverne and Shirley. It was Shirley that says Larry Elliott. But yeah, it was Cynthia Williams that works for WotC. She's the president of something or other. But yeah, so
Flady says put a chick in it and make her lame and gay.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the best move, right? That apparently is the way to do it.
I saw, what was the movie I saw today? The show that they're going to, Kung Fu Panda 4 is coming out next month.
Oh,
so
sweet.
I wonder,
Just what we needed.
Lame crap they're going to put. I mean, it was, I guess, funny, the first one. I didn't watch any of the other ones.
Yeah. I think Jack said, Hungar's in the house. Welcome, sir.
Hey, Hungar.
Jack 71st said, I'd love to ask James Ward about it. I assume you mean the Cynthia Williams things. There are people I would love to talk to about. I would love to know the skinny on that. My gut instinct is she was probably a bit of a terror. I mean, she was from she was already wealthy. She was from a wealthy family. They owned Buck Rogers and tried to make that horrendous Buck Rogers game, which they did make, but whatever.
Buck Rogers could have been a fun property to game in.
Mm-hmm. Could have been.
And I mean, how hard could it have? I mean, we've all seen all kinds of games made on the D20 quote unquote engine. It shouldn't have been that hard.
Yeah, but that was back in, second edition days. And, I don't know this. It does. But to me, I thought back to the movies, would you recommend these to people to purchase or watch?
Yeah. If you're interested in the history of things, sure.
Yeah.
If you're not interested in history, I don't think that it won't matter to you much.
No. I think if you're going to choose one, if you want an enjoyable, fairly quick watch, you do the Dreams in Gary's Basement. You won't get much on Arneson. If you want a deep dive into the background, I would definitely do Secrets of Blackmoor. I'm glad I have them both.
You don't have them.
I know Joe still has them, but I may have to get over to his house and steal them back. He's been avoiding my calls this week when I'm trying to get him back. He's like, I haven't got to.
Pretty much going to have to put me in an arm bar or a full Nelson or something like that.
I know he's going to keep them from me forever. I'm going to go cry. I think you can still get them through. Let's see. Griff's group is Griff is Griffith Morgan and Chris Graves. If you go to their website, I'm sure you can still purchase it, and I'm almost positive you could buy the Dreams in Gary's Basement.
If I was to buy one, it would be the Dreams in Gary's Basement. I don't know. I mean, I don't know about Secrets of Blackmoor because it's called Volume 1 on their materials.
I don't think Volume 2 is. I felt like Griff said he doesn't see Volume 2 happening. And I think some people may have passed away since that. Some of the older folks in the show. I'm not sure though.
When that's to be expected. They're, we're not young, and those guys are a generation older than us.
Yeah, they were the original, right?
Yep,
The
yep.
the OGs. I was gonna ask something else, and I think it may have slipped my mind. Oh
Let's
well.
see.
Did you have any
Okay,
other?
so my questions, because I added a couple.
Sure.
I think I already covered it. Do we need to choose a favorite of these two guys? I think that they have a lot to. Both of them have a lot to offer.
Yeah.
As far as inspiration. So if you're interested in the history and you think that Arneson really didn't contribute anything, I would challenge you to get Secrets of Blackmoor.
Yes.
Find some place to watch it if somebody you know owns it. Like, I pawned them off of Randy, and he's going to be lucky to get them back.
That's the cheap way to get them.
Yeah.
Steal them from your friends.
Yeah. It may not change your mind completely, but it should if you keep your mind open. It should soften you a bit on them, and that's what it did for me.
I don't see how you can watch both of them and think Arneson didn't have a significant impact.
Right.
It may not be 50-50. It may be, but he had something to say. And from my viewpoint, I think he deserved. I hate to see him have won those. I hate that it went to settlements. I think Gary should have just said, look, yeah, you get part of the cash from first edition. Because to say that had nothing to do with original D&D, get out of here.
Right. And that one lady who said she typed everything up.
Yeah.
She was with Arneson's crowd, and she said she typed up the manuscript for chainmail.
Yes. Yeah. Who knows?
And she said, well, this just looks like what we do.
And it was Gary's wife who had typed up the white box from Arneson, and she said Arneson notes. I think it's in the movie. Maybe it's somewhere else. Someone had said, this could be hearsay. I'm not trying to blame anything, but his first wife, I believe, said it looked like a fourth grader's handwriting.
I don't remember that quote.
And a bunch of weird fourth grader. I mean, just it was hard to put together. It was fourth grader.
They did talk about Arneson not being able to type worth crap.
Right. And it could have been
and they showed a lot of samples of his typing. There are lots of typos all through it. But oh well, I'm not great at typing. I was following a coding video on YouTube. I was off today, and it was taking me forever. And my wife is like, well, how much did you get done? I said, hardly any, because I'm a slow typer. I've always been slow.
Our man says there's also people that think Dave did all the creation and Gary just wrote it down. Yeah, that seems impossible. I agree. I don't believe that.
Right. I think it was
Gary had a
merging of ideas, and only those two and the people who actually wrote it up really know how much one or the other contributed, really. And both of them have on record said that they were the primary. Gary even wrote an article about it in Dragon Magazine.
Yep.
And, from their point of view, maybe so, especially if they had bad blood. So I really did all this and you didn't.
And Gary wrote but what's funny is Gary's articles, just like a lot of his articles, he's gone both sides. His early ones, he was praising Arneson left and right. And then after a while, he said it wasn't that. But who knows? I mean, and you could say it's malicious, or it could be that Gary said, look, he put all these tables in. I mean, I was impressed that Gygax I didn't know how smart he was. He apparently was really good at math. I respected. He worked for an insurance company.
He was an actuary or something like that.
Right, without having a degree, which is amazing. Right. And he did that for several years. Flady makes a comment, and I am interested. The documentary on the birth of World of Darkness was pretty good, too. If you're into learning how other systems came to life, would love to see one in Palladium and Shadowrun. I'm not a huge Shadowrun guy, but I would love to see a video on Palladium. That would be neat. But he's still living, so they may not do that, unfortunately, till they're gone. So, but who knows?
I mean, what's better time to do a documentary than when you got firsthand information? That would be great.
I agree. I would love to hear it. It would be cool. Larry Elliott, go ahead.
The game came out in the early 80s. So it was pretty much on the tail end of
it was
first edition, right?
It was in the hype age, dude.
Yeah,
role-playing games were big.
So it's been around almost as long as D&D, almost.
Yeah. And Max says the World of Darkness one was exceptional. I have to check it out then. Is this something I can catch on YouTube or
Vimeo, maybe?
Vimeo or someplace? Larry Elliott says, reality, in 20 years, most playing won't know anything about either one. And
No, I
I don't
don't think
know.
so.
20 years, I mean, I'm hoping I'm still around and still playing. L says, Larry, most players don't know who Gary or Dave are now unless they're woke. Oh. L says, Randy, in the 60s, you did not need a degree to wipe your own butt like today. They were, well, yeah, sure. Facts. I mean, that's why he got it. Now, I was just impressed.
He probably went there. I mean, what's that movie that Will Smith was in?
Yeah.
Where he didn't have a degree either.
Yeah.
And he did some training. He was really dirt poor.
Yeah.
And he did some like
Good
weekend
Will
training.
No,
not Goodwill. This is Will Smith.
Will Smith. Okay.
And got a job. I'm going to say insurance job.
Okay.
But and this was, back in the 70s. I'm pretty sure.
I'm all for that. I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
I can tell you, though, that I took the first year of my graduate school. I passed the first 2 actuarial exams. I was thinking about going in that field. And they're not easy stuff. I mean, it begins with the first 3 years of calculus, linear algebra, and differential equations. That's the first test. And that's pretty advanced math. And so, but that's in the 90s. In the 1960s, it could have been a different field altogether. It may not become probably no computers and not nearly as complex. So, yeah, I mean, happiness something is what Mac's trying to tell you. I think happiness. Yeah.
That sounds familiar.
It sounds familiar. I don't know it. That's fine. Yeah.
It's been a while since I saw it, but essentially it's from the 70s, and perhaps there were a lot of so there were so many people that in America's past and other countries too, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Where they made it big without degrees. How many of the founding fathers had a degree? I mean, they were educated, but they did.
Degrees are overrated.
Yeah.
Yeah. Duncan Bradley asked the question. Yeah. Just the first 2, dude. Nothing to get excited about.
Pursuit of happiness. That's it.
That's it. Thanks, Darth.
Yeah. Happiness was in there. Thanks.
Yeah. But I think people should be able to. I think we should do that in businesses anyway. Degrees. I mean, I don't want to say they don't mean anything. I mean, if you get a master's degree in mathematics, you probably know a little bit. If you get a bachelor's degree, you probably know a little bit. If you get a physics degree or even a business degree and an MBA, now there could be other questions, but I think you got something to offer if you're a level-headed person, maybe something more than your average, bear. Got a degree in mechanical engineering, you probably know something. But there's nothing wrong, man. You take a guy. I mean, I have a friend of a friend, Joe. He went to the military in the Marines. I won't mention his name. Great guy. He's a head engineer at a big company. He's never had any no degree stuff at all. And he's a big time guy. He's just naturally skilled, has a good mind for fixing things and, arranging things. He's a natural engineer. And so that's cool.
Bill Gates didn't have a degree.
There you go.
I'm pretty sure. I think he dropped out of college.
Degrees are overrated. Yeah, you're right, Al. Most places want a degree and experience, which is dumb.
Having education matters most. Well, I don't even know if that's true. Depends on how you do it.
Sure.
If you went to see a doctor, you probably would insist that he had the proper credentials, because especially if it's a surgeon and they're cutting you open. But even way back, doctors were trained like on the job.
And I bet you could do that. I bet you could still do that.
Yeah, especially if it's a family doctor.
And if he's a good teacher, you slowly wean people. It's like any job. If you're training somebody, you let them do little things and then medium things and then big things, and you step back and say, give it a whirl on your own. Hey, don't do that. That's good. Don't do that. Ooh, well done. That sort of thing.
And tell you what, with how rapidly, at least in previous years, knowledge updates, like what are good as far as medical people. What's the drug of choice? What drugs do you want to use, or what procedures are good to employ with different issues that you find with your patients? that can change rapidly over time. And so doctors have to be a good doctor. You have to stay on top of latest research and stuff. So what you learn in medical school gets superseded rapidly. So
think about kids who master computer stuff and are naturally gifted. They can move into a field with minimal training and be a high-level programmer, high-level network guy. They can do all sorts of stuff. Our man does make a good counter. It is very difficult to be a full-blown wizard without going to the College of Magic. Good point.
Right.
Oh, so I guess overall, I love them both. I would say my favorite is definitely the Dreams in Gary's Basement, but I'm a 1 and 1A. I love Secrets of Blackmoor. I like the nitty-gritty detail background. I've watched them multiple times. Yeah, I enjoyed them. Yeah. Yes. Oh, Troy Sanborn in the house. Welcome, Troy. How you doing, brother?
That's the name I haven't seen in a while.
Yeah, good old Troy. It depends on the degree.
Yes, it does depend on the degree. Yeah.
And computers are oversaturated. Well, there are skills. There are people that can do things. If you're really talented, yeah, man, you can. They're not going to get mad because you ain't got a couple letters behind your name.
Okay, Ultra American, I'm going to tell you no. Magic College? This is why sorcerers rule. LOL. He said LOL. Okay, he's joking.
Well, he's saying it's better to be a sorcerer than to go to school all the time.
Not first edition sorcerers. First edition sorcerers.
Were there first edition sorcerers?
I mean,
third edition.
Okay, 3.0. Then the 3.5 sorcerer got a little better, and they've just been bumping that thing up like crazy because everybody knew sorcerers sucked.
Okay, I think we've probably talked about this enough. Did you want to tell them to do the things, man?
I will if I click the right thing. All right.
Yeah.
Subscribe, like, share, massage the like button and the algorithms.
Massage those algorithms.
Right. Help me help you.
Oh, man, I was bad. Above 001 hollered out The Pursuit of Happiness PG-13 2006 over on Rumble, man. I'm not keeping track. He's giving us sweet answers. I'm not sure if he beat Darth or not, but can't tell on Rumble. Is there a time stamp on that crap? No. No time stampage.
Oh, 2006, right.
Yeah.
So other than Twiddledee and Twiddledum, who else we got in the FCommyTube chat?
No, at the end, he was just, that's not what I'm talking. That's funny.
That's, I mean, since we can't have, I beat Darth with a complete Google, according to Abub. I can't link them out here. So you have to take my word. This is what is being said over at Rumble.
Right, just take his word. Darth won't take that laying down, Bub. Darth is like, I won. We're gonna have to do a timestamp on their computers. And
now I'll tell you what, if I go with doing OBS, I can probably finagle having all of the commentary from YouTube and Rumble consolidated in one place instead of
and Twitch
and all the totally amazing amount of Twitch.
Yeah, I think commentary. We have thousands. Usually we just have Mar Hawkman every now and again.
Yeah, every once in a while. I think it's possible that we could have had more, but we don't really engage in Twitch that much, and I don't know how useful it is.
What's Elle saying?
Seems Horde Wars is my favorite game to watch. I'm editing on the fly here. I know. I think Elle is on his phone, so I know how typos.
He is forgiven. I know it's tough. He's like me.
According to Shauner's newest 3-minute video.
He likes watching.
So according to Shauner's video, your favorite game to watch is Horde Wars.
My game. My favorite. No.
Favorite. His favorite. It says Elle's saying his favorite game.
Oh, according to Shauner,
According to Shauner, L's favorite
likes
game to watch is Horde Wars.
Command Post Gaming gives us the foof.
Command Post Gaming. Have we seen you here before and have forgotten? Yes.
He's been here. He sneaks in every now and again.
Okay.
That's how he do. He's cool like that.
That is cool. Nice to see you back. All right. Yeah. Go watch those if you can.
Yep.
They are informative and it may soften you on one or the other. And it's at the very least give you a better perspective on how wargaming morphed into role playing back in the day.
Yep.
All right. So if you have out there in YouTube land, if you are finished liking and sharing and subscribing, if you haven't done it already, how about we go on to our next topic?
Sounds good.
Now, it seems like we've talked about this before.
We did, but it was on the fly. People brought up, we were doing something else. Wait a minute. Command Post says Griffith Morgan needs you to check out that video too, folks. Oh, he must see in need of some cash.
Well, I'm sure he's got to recoup costs.
I wish they would be able to get enough money to make the second
gather up enough money to make the volume 2.
That would be cool.
Because that movie kind of left you at the
left you hanging, man.
Yeah,
getting into Blackmoor and D&D. Oh, poop.
Yep.
I was a little disappointed initially. Yeah. So we have talked about this. You're right. We've talked about it before, but
modules versus doing your own adventure.
Correct. I felt like we needed a formal discussion.
Formal discussion. Is this a formal academic study?
No, but I was just thinking it wasn't a topic, but I thought we would bring it back. This was a couple episodes ago. We got to talking about it, but it wasn't one of our main. It wasn't on the outline that people just started talking, and I thought I would bring it back. What do you think?
All right, sounds good. So, modules and prepackaged adventures versus doing your own is this topic. Advantages.
Yep.
What do you think their advantages are?
Well, I think modules especially. I mean, they have all the encounters are prepackaged. They're ready. They're set up for you. The stats are big if you're playing a game that has like a 3rd edition, especially, or other games where there's a lot of mechanics that are important. You can read it and run it theoretically. I mean, that's the idea.
Right.
And nice maps and visuals often. It's like no work for you other than to read it and master it. If you want, you can just read, the Village of Hamlet and run it as is and go. Mac thinks it's a railroad. I disagree. It does not have to be. Just because it's a module doesn't make it a railroad.
Right. It's just stuff for you to play with.
I think he's right in the sense that it's easy to railroad people. Maybe I would like you to expand upon that. He said one is done, the other needs done. Maybe. I'm not sure. I think modules I love them, but I rarely run them as written. I usually steal parts, steal statistics, steal an encounter. I may start out running one, but man, you guys never follow my stupid scripts. And even though I send them out well in advance of the game, players don't follow the script. So
a lot of us hate reading.
I know that. And so I should bullet point that crap, but that doesn't mean you'll read that either.
And there are quite a few that don't like math either.
True. Fair enough. And they're fun to read. Sometimes they're just fun to read, even if you never run them.
Right.
They're deep for ideas. That's an advantage, I think, that's the advantages I would say, especially when you can take them and steal things from them and use them.
Right. It's a lot of stuff that's prepackaged that you can just even just draw inspiration from. You read the module. I wouldn't do it like that, but that gives me some good ideas that I can do. It's like a movie or a book.
Yep.
Or a comic book.
Sure.
I mean, contrary to some people's opinion, a tabletop game isn't a movie that you are playing or a book that you are playing, right? It's not that. It's something akin, but it's not that, because the main character in a movie almost has no chance of dying. Because, I mean, how many movies got sequels? You can't have the main character dying and have a sequel.
Nope. What's up, Ron David? Welcome.
So in the same vein, you can treat a module like you've just read a book. You can glean some good stuff out of that. And it has a little extra for you, like statted out monsters and stuff.
Yep. A couple of comments. I think it was Darth. Let me find Darth's comment. He goes, I believe that pre-mades are useful to teach new GMs how to build an adventure. They can be. And for ideas and to rip off. Absolutely. That absolutely can be the case. And Arnman says, I don't really care if anything in the hobby is a railroad, except when the DM forces the player's actions. Some people think, I agree. I think some people think that's not the only way to railroad. If you have pre-constructed ideas or plans, then it's a railroad. I don't think so. And Max says he doesn't mind railroady adventures a little bit. He likes linear good enough.
Right. I still wouldn't call. I think the railroad comes from how the DM does things.
I agree.
Not necessarily what he's written down.
Now, having said that, there have been modules I have read adventures where the writer assumes you're railroading.
Because, the Dragonlance modules.
Correct. And I've seen some that even weren't that. There was one that I love. I believe it's the Dead Gods Adventure from 2nd edition, Planescape by Monty Cook. I believe in one part of it, he assumes when the adventurers go to this tavern and they fight these guys or do this thing, I'm like, and when I read it, I'm like, why? I'm not even sure my dudes would go there. In fact, you've literally given me no reason to do that.
Okay, I'm going to have to disagree with L here. Sure, you can have a main character die and have a sequel. Thorin Oakenshield died in Hobbit, and we have Lord of the Rings. Oh, he's giving me the winker there.
Oh,
so
okay.
He knows that he's full of it. Thorin was a supporting character.
For sure. In the book.
Frodo was the main character.
Joe and I have had experience with DMs who try to railroad people because they want to tell a cool new story, tell their cool story. I've probably done a little railroading in the past, but that's not my normal operation. Even if I've told you guys, we're going to run, what was the first Pathfinder adventure path? What was that called? Rise of the Rune Lords. But that doesn't mean the players can't do it.
Bilbo. Sorry, L. Bilbo.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, to me, to where we get to the railroady part is when the DM says, hey, if you don't do this thing this way, then we can't have the adventure.
Right.
And I'm like, really?
Yeah, you've written it so this has to happen. You must agree to do this for 20 gold pieces each. I mean, like right now.
Right. I find that okay. So I'm pretty flexible player.
Yep.
A DM barely has to have a hook. Hey, there is some adventure over here.
You don't have to convince Joe to do it.
No, I'm on it. You remember that little dog? Remember in old cartoons, Bugs Bunny, when someone's cooking carrots, and the wavy aroma of the carrots are going through the forest, and Bugs Bunny gets that scent in his nose, and he floats along it.
Yes,
right. That's me with, hey, dude, adventure. Over here, I'm there, right? That you hardly have to do anything. I still like to play my character. So if the DM says, well, you have to play against what your character would normally do,
right,
in order for this adventure to proceed,
right? Then why were you banking on that? If you knew my character, see, when I'm running a campaign, when I run, like a lot of times I would back in the old days, I'd run longer campaigns, which I really need to get back to. I would take dungeon magazines and find multiple adventures that I could see setting in front of the characters as an option. And they would usually do them, not always in the order I had planned, or not completely.
So L asks, is that a railroad or just a GM with limited things prepared and he only has the 20 good reward dungeon tonight? No. So that is a DM that does not know how to get you to the adventure except one specific, particular, exacting way. There are many roads between where I'm sitting and Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
So if a DM can't figure out how to get you, or just say, hey, there's something going on down in the mines. I'm there. Let's go see what's happening in the mines.
The only exception for me would be a new DM. I'm just going to do whatever he says. I'm not going to think about my character. Whatever is laid out in front of me, I'm doing for a brand new DM. But after a while, it's like, dude, you can't just expect people to bite every time if all you're doing is saying, well, they want to hire you for 50 gold. They want to hire you for this. After a while, they're like, dude, I got 500 gold coins on me right now, and I got a couple of gems worth about 1,000 each. 50 gold don't move me.
Right.
Especially, and I got other things to do. I wanted to check this out from last time, remember? And I didn't really prepare that. And I get it. I mean, it's challenging. It's a tough thing. I do think modules do have some disadvantages though.
Yeah.
It may not fit with your group. I mean, some modules you're just like, I just don't see how this is going to fit in my game. And you may just be able to steal a monster or two or encounter or two or a scene and call it good.
Right.
We talked about the railroad. It can become a railroad. I think some like the Slaver series. Oh, that adventure feels like it. You played it, Joe.
Yeah. It's railroady from the point of view that there's no real way to avoid getting captured by the slavers, and the only way to get into the slavers' base. Okay, the point is to eventually bring the slavers down. And it's a 3-parter, I believe.
Yeah.
And you have to start out being a slave.
Yeah.
You can't, according to the way the modules run, you can't come at it any particular way, any different way, and expect anything a success. It's you get captured. Somehow they poison you, or they got you drunk. Maybe you were hanging out with a lady of the night, and everybody ends up on a boat, and you can't use any of your magic. All your gear is gone. I mean, it's just assumed that you get caught and get press ganged into becoming a slave.
Yeah, I think longer modules or adventure path can be a lot to prepare too. For me, if I have 6 different modules, like that was common in the adventure paths from Paizo, I felt like I had to read them all before I could begin running them, because I had to know how the whole story was kind of going, who the big bad guy was, what was the premise, just to see what was there, whether the players followed it or not. Sometimes that can be a chore. Even something like Temple of Elemental Evil, that's a lot of stuff to absorb, and it's not every DM, but me, I like to read it all. So for me, that can be a drawback.
Now, I think a better way to present that. Now, here's the other thing. That I believe that series started out as a Gen Con tournament.
Which one, Temple?
No, the Slavers. That was way back in the day when they were doing that a lot.
Tournaments.
Okay, so if you're doing a con adventure, you have to railroad a little bit, because you have to get into it, and you can't wait for everybody to feel like they got their motivations going.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah, that's fine. On the positive side, Command Post Gaming said a classic module can be fun with new players, like sharing your favorite TV show with people who have not seen it. Yeah, that can be a fun thing to do.
Right. So I think if you get that set of modules, and you as a DM, you can read it all, and then you could probably figure out a way to have multiple entry points and avenues to get in and defeat the slave lords, because that's the point of it, right?
Well, what if you get jumped and you defeat the guys that are jumping you, you could have some guy who escapes, gets mad, and decides, I'm going to catch these guys no matter what, and come back with a stronger group. And then your party gets enmeshed. Hey, these slavers guys, they mean business. They're
Right.
douchebags. Let's go shut them down. And so that's kind of cool.
And who knows? Maybe you don't defeat the slavers.
Yeah.
Maybe you kill them off and take over their network.
Right.
I mean, I wouldn't, but everybody can play however they want.
Yeah.
So having a definite, I mean, is it how much different is it with that than having there's a location you've got that you're looking to go find? There's trouble at the mines.
Yeah.
The mine has one entrance. There's only one way to get to the trouble in the mine, by going through the mine's entrance. How much different is that than the only way to get in to the slave lord's lair is to become a slave first?
I would say what's different is players, Iron Man kind of answers it. Many locations, once entered, may be linear, have a specific target to complete. That is not a railroad. Turn around and leave and fail. They could just say, I'm not going into the mines that way. Okay, you can't get any other way. I don't know what to tell you.
Right.
You can go do something else then. Whereas the slavers, I feel like, and again, I have not read that adventure. I think I might have owned that super module at one time, but sold it. I wish I hadn't now. But I think they just assumed you're captured, right?
Which just assumes you are.
Which is great for a con game.
For a con game, I think that's fine.
You can be like, okay, because I've played one where we were butt naked in a swamp. Here we go. Yeah.
I think my biggest objection isn't that there's only one way to get into the bad guys, and maybe one ostensible objective. My thing is the assumption at the outset, but after thinking about, and I have this back and forth. Because I always forget these early modules. A lot of them were tournament modules initially presented at Gen Con and then retooled to some degree.
Now,
so
if I told you, Joe, go ahead. My bad.
The onus to get you there, and get you going because you only have a 4-hour slot is real, and I understand it.
Would it bother you if I said, "Hey, we're going to start"? I think the slavers were like levels 5 to 7 is what it began. So
Something like that.
We're going to start at 5th level. I want to run the slavers module, and I want to. You're going to start out. If I said you're going to start out as slaves or captured, and that's where we're going to start, just because it'll be easier to get it going, and then from there you can do whatever you want. Would that still bother you?
Oh, it probably wouldn't as much because from the get-go, I think I have kind of a bad feeling with this is because the last time it was sprung on us, and not only did we get caught by the slavers were an amalgam of the module slavers and that group from the Sword of Truth books. Okay, there was a very short-lived Amazon series about the Sword of Truth.
Yeah.
And in it, there's a group of women, and I can't remember what they're called, who they capture, torture, and enslave, mostly men. And they imprint on you to such a degree that even if you escape, you are nearly almost always bound to them, and so there's a magical thing to it, so that you will always do what they tell you to do, no matter what it is.
Oh boy!
Even kill yourself.
Oh yikes! Dar says Mord Sith.
It's possible. It's been such a long time since I read it, but yeah. So the slavers, and then there was that, and then all of our characters were permanently altered. It was all narrated. So, okay, here's the adventure. You're all captured, and you're captured by these ladies who you're now imprinted to. And sometime down the road, you're probably going to meet them, and they're going to be able to tell you what to do.
Yeah,
it's really, really, really heavy-handed.
Heavy-handed and agency stealery. A couple of comments. Larry Elliott said, aren't most adventures a railroad with chances to get off the train for a new path to the train station? I think most adventures kind of are. I mean, the DM's got it set up. Now, if you're winging it and just doing whatever you want, if you're doing this true sandbox where you don't plan anything and just roll random crap because the players go some direction, and you can tell I'm not a big fan of that style, but knock yourself out if you want to. I guess that would be different. And L kind of supports that. He says, what does L say here? He says, published adventures are meant to be railroads. Settings were meant to be sandbox. GM buys what he needs to run the game. Yeah, probably. Maybe.
And like we said, you could always use elements of modules that you buy. And you don't have to. I mean, it would be a true railroad is when you bought it, it compelled you somehow to follow it exactly.
The power of Gygax compels you. The power of Gygax compels you. And Dorothea, the starting circumstances of the players being set by the DM is not a railroad. It's just marking the starting point. I mean, I kind of agree, but that thing that Joe talked about, going to implant this mark on you later on in case I need to hose you. I'll have these NPCs show up to hose you. Yeah. If the players are down with it and you have a way for them to somehow get some freedom from that, or if it's going to be so minor, like maybe what if you did this? What if you started out with instead of them getting that mark, what if you just started where a deity says, I have chosen you. You are my chosen heroes to complete this quest. And he shows up periodically either to nudge you back onto the path or to tell you attaboy and maybe reward you. But he's a deity. Sure. He's a deity. And so theoretically, you could say no, but maybe he's like, he might just kill me.
Well, so, even if it's just a mentor, a high level mentor that can give you boons and whatnot for following, here's something I would like you to do. It's one thing to have a conversation. It's one thing to have an interesting role-playing opportunity out of even having been chosen of the deities or whatever.
Yeah.
But just having the whole thing narrated and saying, this is what happens.
Yeah.
You're now bound to these. Who knows who they are, because we didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And
you command post gaming. I need to clarify something. So sandbox does not mean no story as I see it. My sandbox has a story going through as you player choose to participate in it or do other things as the story goes on around them. Yeah, I'm not pooping on like sandbox play.
No,
but a style where like all you do is if
it's open-ended.
It might be awesome to be this DM that can go off the cuff and make a really cool adventure every time, and that's totally fine. I just think I've seen it not work out as well. I have not seen a DM who can run completely off the cuff. Well, to be fair, I've not played in a lot of campaigns, but completely off the cuff is pretty tough to pull off. I'm not saying you can't, and there are guys that can, but and if they're just winging it, sandbox, do whatever you want. I get a lot of players looking around the table are like, I don't know. Yeah, I agree. Hex Scrawl is a sandbox. That's all good. Flighty1 says, if you join a table with to save the princess and all you want to do is go around and loot the town in the opposite direction, you should have not sat at the table. Yeah, I mean, if it's been laid out what the premise is and you're like, I don't want to do that, okay, then maybe you shouldn't be there. That's a good point.
Correct.
Especially at cons. If I'm going to play the Slaver series as written, and Joe's like, I don't want to be a slave. Well, maybe you shouldn't play. I mean, it doesn't mean I have to screw him, but it does mean that's how we're starting. That's true.
Right.
Yeah, I think giving them, what is Arnman saying? It's kind of interesting. He says, Matt Colville spelling does cut scenes where the characters are part of a story of events. They have no control during those moments. Yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah, that's what this felt like.
Yeah. L says, just go on an adventure, no epic story needed, or you can have one. So you can have an epic story or not. It's up to you. So neither one's better than the other. It's your choice.
Fine, Larry. He says, but Joe is a good slave. Roll that D4.
Yeah. What about making your own? What do you think about that? What's great about making your own? Screw modules. Screw. Oh, screw the man. No
Well,
railroad.
you have total creative control.
Yep.
Control, I think, would be a benefit, but it cuts both ways.
Yeah. I think it's also, cuts down the time reading. When I write my own adventure, I don't need to reread it very often. I mean, almost
Right.
probably never.
But I'm going to say that most likely getting a canned adventure and reading it, prep for it, is probably less than making your own from scratch.
Maybe.
Depending on the situation. So if you're at the outset of the campaign, that's where most of the prep happens. Once you've got it kicked off and you know through a couple of sessions where you're going, perhaps preparing for that next session isn't as hard as if you bought a whole new adventure and you don't have any idea what's in it. You have to read the whole thing. And if you're planning on just playing that adventure, it may be more intensive in that sense. But I think in a lot of other senses, prep time for rolling your own for a lot of people is going to be a little bit more.
Yeah. And for some people, they can just do a little bit of prep and run a great game. They can let it go off the cuff. And that's not a bad thing. I mean, what Elle said about let's just do an adventure, if that's your mindset and you don't need any kind of epic story or, hey, there's going to have this big, bad, evil guy at the end. We're just going to wing it and see what happens. Maybe the ogre will be the big, bad, evil guy they deal with for a few sessions. And then next time it might be the sheriff in town. He's kind of a turd and the adventurers are going after him. I think that can be fine. That can be, apparently people like it. And I mean, I wouldn't dislike it. It's just not my favorite.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of adventure, non-epic adventure, right? Epic adventure, there's usually something with a broad scope that's going on
like
in the background.
A meta plot of some sort.
Yeah. But if there's, so for a non-epic, just, hey, this is just adventure gaming, then all you need is, hey, we don't know what's on the other side of that hill. Let's go find out.
Yeah.
And I'm down with that.
Me too. That's not a problem.
I don't need it to be, I don't need a giant meta story, Sauron type of thing going on to have a good time at the table.
I guess for me, I don't need that, but I guess I like to hint at something more. And so whenever I work on an adventure of my own, there is probably something I'm thinking about beyond what you guys do.
So, I'm thinking of one of the Indiana Jones movies. I want to call it Temple of Elemental Evil, but I know that's not it because that's a module. But it's the one where they have the stones that are giving that one guy power to pull people's hearts out of their chests.
Oh, wow. Stones? It's
Indiana Jones. There's all the kids out of this village have been stolen. And when he goes and finds out why they've been stolen, he finds there's a temple there. Temple of Doom.
Yeah.
Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom, right?
Yeah.
So that's essentially, there's something going on over there. And you don't know exactly what's going on. There's some hints because you got some soothsayer. A lot of children are missing. But you go over there and there's some really bad crap going on. But so the initial onus is what's on the other side of that hill to one degree or another. You might find out that there's something big going on, or you might find out that there's just a goblin lair over there and they're just terrorizing the local groups, the local villagers, or they just live there and you're like, the goblins are evil. Let's go kill goblins.
Ryan David says, you don't need a big overarching thing happening, but everything that happens should affect your world. I agree. I think it's important that you don't have I don't think it's fun. To me, I would never run a campaign where the adventures that you do never have any consequences and make no difference in what you guys are doing. It's not like, oh, we did Temple of Elemental Evil. Oh, we did Slavers. Oh, and however you do it, especially if you did something in sort of a crazy way, it could have a long-lasting effect in the campaign setting.
Right, right. Even if it's just local.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be global, even if it's something significant local.
We murdered every goblin. Now these crazy little rarely known demonic red kobolds are now multiplying. How come? Because those goblins kept them in check. You know what I'm saying? And now you got another crisis, which may be worse than before.
Right. That was her name? I don't think so.
Who you talking about?
Okay, so at the beginning of this movie of Temple of Doom, there's a dance scene, right? Showgirls dancing, and there's some double dealing Orientals that would not be a good show. Wouldn't really happen in movies today.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a group of folks that Indiana Jones is delivering the goods to, or double crossing him, and in the middle of it, he gets hooked up with this showgirl. I don't think her name is Kathleen Kennedy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I didn't think that was her name.
Okay.
Kate Capshaw. That was her name.
Oh, she was pretty. She was
she was pretty.
Doom, right? She was in Doom. Temple of Doom.
Temple of Doom.
Yeah. Right on.
So anyway, you don't know, you don't necessarily have to know that there's big stuff going on to go on the other side of the hill after something you don't know what's going on at all. And then when you get there could be something big. And then after you're done, it could have some local effects, could have broader effects.
Yeah, and to be fair to the DMs that run Sandbox as well, I mean, you may not have a plan for an overarching plot, but you may be like, they're after this Baron, maybe this secretive Baron that lives in this castle. His minions are causing trouble. And you're like, you know what? I'm going to make him a vampire. You know what I'm saying? And he's going to be up to, and you figure that out later on. And the players can seek it out or not. Maybe after they've handled some of his warriors and some of his guys that have been causing trouble, posing as bandits, and they put a kibosh on that. It's not a problem for anymore. And he ignores them and they ignore him and they go do something else.
And then I think where I think some folks have issues is that they hold on too tightly to whatever plots they're trying to have in their campaign.
Yes.
Personally, I don't think plotting is a good idea, because you can have some proposals, but once the PCs start doing stuff, those plots can get all mixed up. What if the dude that you want as a DM, you want this guy to be a big player later on in your game, and the players, the PCs walk up to him and stab him in the face.
Yep.
So you got to be careful how married to your plots you get.
Yeah. Command Post Gaming says, yeah, your DM plans will get ruined fast. Yeah. I think though, as a DM, I can have plans for my bad guys.
Yeah.
But if the players put monkey wrenches in it, fine. Or if they ignore it, fine.
You have to be willing to
yeah.
Well, some DMs, they'll say, oh, he didn't die, actually.
I don't like that, but to be fair, someone on Rumble who I just checked, Abeb, mentioned something about the Quantum Ogre plot hook. You guys know, I don't hate the Quantum Ogre. I'm less inclined to be with it if it's a major NPC, but if it's a monster encounter that I want you to have, and I'm thinking this will be fun, you might have it whether you go east, west, north, or south.
Yes, movies with scripts and books, they are all railroads because they have plots, they have a start, they have their act 1, 2, and 3. If they're written, some people think that's what you should do, but I've seen videos on YouTube where it says how to do an act 3 for your campaign, and I'm like, what are you talking about? That to me is really weird.
It is. DNGNGN digging. Welcome. Follow the players and tables, not your plans. Correct. But if you have an epic plan for a villain to do something, I've said it before, the players can do whatever they want, and I'll be happy to run it. But don't think for a second my demon worshipping wizard is still not up to no good, no matter how long you ignore him. And you'll probably only be able to ignore him for so long, or you may be really sorry, or Who knows? Maybe I'll roll randomly. Maybe some other adventuring group took care of him.
Right. Yeah. Arn Man, or no, is that no? Darth says, I once had a player one shot a bad guy. When I was revealing that I was planning to use later, and then I had to come up with something else.
Happens.
So, and the players and the DMs have to be a bit flexible. Don't be too married to anything.
Ryan David says, we have to remember the people that are planning the Act 3 are also running campaigns that only last 6 sessions long. He's not completely wrong there. A lot of those people that get into that planning and plotting are the short session people. They're basically telling one story.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I agree. Now, I think this is true too. Arnman says you can have an event that is required for another event to happen. You must find the goblet to be able to enter the temple, not a railroad. You don't have to have 1,000 ways to do one thing. I've heard that a lot. Make sure your players have all sorts of options. Look, you don't have to. You can't get into the temple of super awesome treasure that actually has a spell book for Joe's Wizard unless you have a +4 Vorpal. If you
Allegedly.
Allegedly. But if you don't have it, you can't get in. Yeah.
Right. Because another reference to Indiana Jones, right? Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Mm-hmm.
If they didn't have that staff with the little amulet on top of it, precisely in the right spot at the right time, they would have not known where to dig to find the Ark.
Adventure over.
Adventure over.
Mm-hmm.
However, knowing that they needed to have all that stuff, the getting from not having any of that information to having it, that can be what can take many different routes to do, or maybe a couple. But I mean, sure, if your players, you're at a bar and the dude that has the amulet that you're supposed to get, you piss him off or you stab him in the face and you never get the amulet, well, I guess you're never going to get in the temple. You're not going to be digging up the Ark, and the Nazis are going to get it, and they're never going to rule the world because the Ark, spoiler, kills the Nazis. So,
and Joe, like Joe said before, we've said it on here. Joe doesn't like my villains to do much monologuing. He wants to kill them when they start running their traps.
Well, and you make them very evil.
Sure. And when you kill them that way, good on you. But he may have been dropping you a clue that you would need later on. Oh well, you got to live.
You don't get it.
Now, Mac Thompson gives a good summary, which I agree with to a point. Mine's a little different. It's all relative, honestly. When I run, it's 90% winged anyway. Fair enough. Even the modules are mostly just guidelines for me. Every time is way different than the last. I'm different. I'm pretty heavy prepped, but I'm more than willing to go off the rails with the players. And when I say rails, I just have things I have planned for them to do. I usually have enough to entice them. Plus, I have players like Joe over here who will do. I know Joe just needs a little trail mix or bone. He'll jump right into it. And Joe's often the leader at the table, not the leader, but he's usually the one people will follow. And so I know they'll do mostly what I do. But when they get a wild hair up their butts, we just go with it, man.
We might come up with some different ways of accomplishing what's set before us, or there's times I'm like, I really wish we could do this, but it just doesn't look like a good option. So we end up not doing it.
And sometimes, like I've noticed too, if they ignore my breadcrumbs and get caught on another path, because I'm pretty good about having different people in town or wherever they're at, dropping hints of things they could do, more than one. So the players don't always know what the adventure is. And so they take this path, which I may or may not be ready for, and we play a whole night. And Joe's like, hey guys, don't forget the alchemist really said that there was a secret dungeon that only grows under this special night, and it's almost time for that. Next time, let's go do that. Right. And I like that because Joe rarely forgets a plot hook. He's like an adventure hook. He writes them down in his mind anyway.
Even though it's been disproved many times over the years, I always think that when there's a breadcrumb thrown out, that there's treasure at the end of that somewhere. I
don't know why you think that still, but God bless you, Joe. I love that about you. You still keep thinking I use the treasure tables, and I don't. Not at all.
No.
I didn't even know it was part of the book till you pointed it out to me.
Yeah. Treasure.
Treasure. Who gives that out? That sounds like a complete Monty Hall move. Yeah, I agree, Arn, man. It's really hard. He says, I've really never had a group that didn't jump on a hook. They understand that those will likely be the best adventures. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, you know, there are people that can wing it, like our buddy Mac here, and probably runs a damn fine game. So, I mean,
Well, you can still have a hook when you wing it.
yes, you can.
So hooks aren't railroads.
No, they're not.
Because a hook doesn't have to be, you must talk to the proprietor of the bar to find out this item of information. A hook could just be a hill that you don't know anything about the other side is.
And writing your own adventures doesn't mean they're not railroads either.
Right.
We've
right.
seen that. People write their own stories.
Sure.
And so, yeah. L says, Randy reading the book. He didn't even read Trouble at Trigon's Falls, Joe. It's true. I completely winged that crap. I didn't even know what was in it. I hope it's good. Those that bought it can tell me what it's about. I'm not really sure.
Not sure.
But I did write it. How that worked, I'm not sure. Oh, yeah. I think the best option for me, and I talk about this in the notes, I mix it. I love having modules. They're fodder often for beginning my campaigns, but not for
the touching off point.
Yeah. And I love to use them and pull something out, or the players will do something and be we're really interested in why this Thieves Guild is so prevalent in this town. And then I'll have some adventure that's about Thieves Guild. I'm like, oh, I'm going to use this. That's what this guild's going to be. And they're going to find this out. And yeah, works out good.
Yeah.
I say, I think it's 50-50. I think they're both good. I love modules. I'm fine if you don't. I think their advantages and disadvantages, while they have them inherently, they're more dependent on how the DM uses them, how the DM sets them up or writes them.
Right.
His adventures versus things he purchases out the shelf.
I think they're idea mines.
I agree.
Just about anything you can get gaming related, it's an idea mine. You don't have to use it. You don't have to be a slave to its content.
Yeah, our boy Patrick Demo says that's true for him for all RPG books.
Yeah.
He just buys them and mines them for ideas.
Right. Arnman says, we've talked about this before, but I encourage first-time DMs to have a fairly linear, simple adventure, and this will likely be a railroad. It's okay for beginners. I agree. You need training wheels. Yep.
You're at the door of the dungeon. That's still not a wrong way to do something.
Right.
You're at the door of the dungeon. They said something bad. Orcs have been coming out of this dungeon. Please do something about it.
I often like that.
Yeah, I know you do, Joe. You sometimes are so, you just want to get to it most of the time.
Let's get to the meat. I don't need the veggies.
Yeah. I like the flavor, yo. Add a little spice.
Yeah. You know, there's nothing with more flavor than a good steak.
No, but you need your hot sauce, baby. It tastes good. Mix it with a little A1.
Nah, it gets in the way. Gets in the way.
Incorrect.
A good steak needs nothing except for heat and a fork and knife.
Yep. Okay, man.
All right, so I think we're saying mixing it up is probably your best bet.
I think for most people, I think even people that have never run modules, I don't do modules, I do my own thing. That's cool, but I would still encourage you, if you see something on the shelf that looks kind of slick, grab that. Flady says, Sriracha mixed with A1 sauce is divine. Sir, let me offer to you, I like Sriracha too. Let me bring up Frank's extra hot red hot sauce mixed in A1 sauce. It will change your world.
See, we're talking with people who have woefully underdeveloped taste buds.
I think Flady and I, Flady and I are going out to eat at Big Geekon. I can tell already. We're going to have to go somewhere, grab something for lunch, and try a little hot food down the road. I got a couple places he might want to try. There's an Indian place down the road I need to take Flady to if he's not been before. So.
Okay, well, I'm going to repeat my appeal from earlier. Do all the things. Subscribe, like, share, and subscribe, like, share, follow, depending on how you're consuming this content. Help that algorithm. Help us help you, because if you help us by doing all these things, we'll be better able in the future because we'll have more people behind us. We are actually gaining again. subscribers. I just minimized everything. All right. Where are we at here? No.
Welcome, Mar. I'm glad you made it. You're on the tube. Normally, you're on the Twitch, I think. Mar Hawkman.
Yeah, he's usually on Twitch. We have reached 450 subscribers.
Oh, 50 more, man. And I've got a Paranoia box set that will knock your lights out that I'm giving away. Old school, second edition, lots of goodies.
Yeah, so if you like Paranoia and would like to have that old school game, beat your friends into submission.
Yes.
To subscribe.
Yeah.
All right. Let me get this screen gone and get this screen up. All right. So Big Geekon.
Yeah.
Big Geekon is on like Donkey Kong.
Yes, it is.
20th to the 22nd of September. 3 days, not 2, 3. Hopefully we'll have more gaming squished into there somehow.
Yep.
But for the same low price of $30.
Man, what a bargain. Can't be
We have sold 5 tickets so far. Would like some more people to show up.
We'd
I know it's early.
More people.
Yeah.
At least 20 more.
At least 20.
15 more would be enough. So
yeah. So kids are welcome. 13 and above. If you have kids under the age of 13, they're free for us to take. Their tickets are free. You don't even need to buy a ticket. You can bring in your kids under 13. If they're 13 or older, though, need to buy a ticket. It is at 4 Points by Sheraton in Saginaw, Michigan. The link for the ticket sales will be in the description ASAP of this video.
Mac Thompson says 5. Y'all better get to buying.
Yeah, only 5, but it's February.
And we got a boatload of gamers around here. We got a buttload of friends will be there, so I think we could count on at least 10 more guaranteed, if not 20, just from our friends. So I would say 10 is practically guaranteed. One told me on Super Bowl night he's running a game for sure, so he's got a cool game planned. So
is it the same someone who said that last time?
Yes, and then blew. It's all right though. I don't believe that can happen again. I mean, if it could happen to him. If it could happen twice, it could happen to him. But he's our dude. He can do it. I believe in him.
All right.
Oh my goodness, Flady's talking about he may not make it because of his work. Dude, tell them no. Tell them Big Geekon is too important. You must make the trek. I know. It's all right, brother. Things happen.
Those priorities.
He wants
but yeah, it was a fun time last year. It'll be fun again. This is a con that is just about gaming. Yep. We don't get distracted by anything else. I mean, there's some giveaways. We have a short giveaway. When did we do that? Was it at the end?
We used to do them. No, we did them at the. I think we did them on each day. We did a tiny bit the first day, but this year we're probably just going to do it Saturday, midday, right after the second slot. So probably around 5 and 6, we'll be giving away a whole bunch of stuff. Ladies talking about sending some stuff of gaming books to give away. I'm going to give some stuff away. I'm going to give Joe away. So it'll be good. Joe will be free, absolutely free to take.
I'm not expensive. Well, no, I'm expensive to feed.
He has to eat a lot, but he doesn't ask for much. So, yeah, Nerdy, you should come down, brother. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. We just game. We don't get involved in too much of anything else. Of course, we visit as well. Yeah. We have breaks in between the slots so that we can visit. I don't think we should. I think that's good, especially when most of us only talk. We talk at you, and then you chat at us. Yeah. But it's a really fun time. I don't have anything to compare it to as far as other cons, so I can't really speak to that.
I do, and it's really fun. It's comparable to what we call Cabin Con. I think it's different from Gen Con because Gen Con's more of a whole extravaganza. Hardman says, if Flady can't make it, I might reconsider. What good is Big Geek Con without Flady? Dude, don't forget, we need people to play the Floor is Lava game.
We know where you live.
Yeah, unfortunately we do. So
kind of.
You're coming on, man. We're gonna come.
We know that you live in, we know what state you live in at least.
Yeah. I know what town he lives in, but I don't know exactly where.
Yeah. We can probably just hang around on the street corners till we see him, and then we can abduct him and make him come.
Dude, L just has a good idea. It says Randy is having a slave auction, bid on a GM for a 6-hour game session for your chosen group of players. That could be fun, where you bid to like have a GM run the game that you want him to run, and he has to
Now,
do it off the cuff.
now,
Oh,
can we call it a slave auction and get away with it?
yes. Yes, we will call it that. What are they gonna? Who's gonna do what?
Well, I'm talking about if I can work out on tabletop events, people buying tickets for things.
Crybabies, yeah.
Can we offer tickets to a slave auction?
We could say forced GM auction. That's so lame. Yeah, I like the idea. There's an event called, I've talked about, I need to write this down. There is an event that they used to do at Gen Con called the Iron GM, and I've wanted to run that. We could do that as an auction where you have to run off indentured auction, indentured GM. Yeah, there you go. We can call it.
Yeah, we can just say, hey, this isn't about slavery. It's about dentures. We're dentists. We got the word a little wrong.
Nerdy said it's outside his jurisdiction. He can't come to Saginaw. It's sad. Hopefully he'll be
Nerdy ogre.
Man.
What would be cool?
He had no ogres last year.
Maybe at some
nerdy one.
Maybe at some point in the future we can offer some virtual gaming. a virtual end of our convention.
A submissive master.
Can't use the word master.
No,
it hurts people's feelings.
Oh. Max says, if you say the slaves are white, the wokies will be okay with it.
That's probably true.
Yeah. Cis white dungeon master. Yeah, baby. No, it's going to be 3 rays of awesomeness.
Indentured servitude was an extension of contract law. True. Contract law is a common practice today. Sure.
Thank you, Mar. Mar Hawkman says it was okay. We're doing it.
Yeah, that means it's okay.
Yep. We'll just send it to Mar. Mar, he can say, shut up, turds. Got no time for your bull crap.
GM in chains auction.
I'm liking this. Yeah, I'm liking this idea.
Matt Thompson says, I'm triggered by laws.
I hate when people tell
laws? Me. Who cares? What do you mean laws? I'm mad. Yes, L. How do you label the game master without master? I know, but there's a whole group of people that if you say the word master, they scream at you.
Game facilitator. Oh, nice. Yeah, so it's going to be a good time. You got plenty of time to get your tickets, not till September 2024 in Saginaw, Michigan. It's going to be more fun than a barrel of monkeys.
How would an Iron GM competition, what would that look like?
Okay, so from what I gather, what would happen is you would say who wants to be a GM for this session. So you'll get 4 or 5 people, and it's a competition. And what you do is somebody would secretly know, would give them 3 words would be chosen. Like you might say staff, evil priestess, and a duck.
And you have to work that into your game.
And you have 1 hour to design your adventure. Now, if you want to get hardcore, the players at your table who are with you, they decide what system you're using. Some people say you give them a choice of 1 or 2 systems, and that's what you run. So you get an hour to design your game. I would be willing to say give them 30 minutes and just call it the, Iron GM. You got to wing it and you could say, or you could have the DM say, I'm going to run a Savage Worlds game. Joe could say, I'm doing OSE. Patrick could say, I'm running Shadowrun. And someone else, I'm running this. And you sit down and you go. And while you're planning your adventure, your players create their characters. And you go. And the DM would have to say, hey, this is going to be 3rd level. It's going to be 2nd tier Horde Wars. It's going to be this. It's going to be four advancements in Savage Worlds. So they make their character while you're planning it. And the way they decided it was at the end, they had some rating system. I'll do some research on it. I've always wanted to participate in the Iron GM competitions that I've seen. That would be fun.
I wonder if there's any video out there.
Possibly. I would look at, I can do just a real quick.
Then that would be a really cool thing to add in.
I
An
think it
Iron
would be.
GM competition.
Yeah, and if nothing else, I'll just. Oh yeah, there's a website even. Oh, dude, check this poop out.
Because I've heard of Iron GM. It's just been a long time since anyone's ever said it.
Yeah. There it is. There's a website with Iron GM. In fact, I'm going to save that right now because I think that's something that must happen.
Okay.
Yeah, right on.
Do we want to put a big geek spin on the name of that thing?
Probably
or do we
will.
want to just call
We'll
it
probably
Iron?
we'll probably put a big geek spin on it and do some other
Okay.
stuff. So, yeah. Mac Thompson says he's already got it. Tim Staff, cursed princess that saw whole family wiped out. Duck used as scale weight in witch trial. Monty Python. Now, the thing is, the GMs wouldn't know anything until the day of. You
Right.
don't know. You just walk up, and they have some way to vote on people, and so I'll make sure that I do that. Yeah. So I think it would be fun, and I think there's a way to rate people. I feel like I've even seen a grading chart, and so the Iron Geek. Oh, that's pretty good. That's not bad. Yes. Thank you, Flady. And now I got to give him some credit. Dang it. I wanted to take it all. The Big Iron Geek. Now that's original. That's Flady gets no credit.
that bears enough difference that
Yes.
the intellectual property is now yours. You can actually steal that.
I'm going to.
And it's not called stealing because you just added one word.
Right. I just trademarked it. Too late, Flady. Or Darth. Too bad.
Lady Darth.
No, they're different dudes. They're both groovy, but they're different dudes.
They're both white guys.
Well, yeah, they are. They are very white.
So in the grand scheme of things, according to some people these days, they're the same person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, enough of that. So you heard it here first. There will be an Iron GM competition called the Iron Geek, maybe the Big Iron Geek.
Yeah.
We will decide which one we will use at some future
Yeah.
point.
So now there's so much I got to do. So I've got to run Dungeons and Delvers. That's been promised.
Yeah.
And I'm going to participate in the Iron GM, so I don't even want to know. We could have a committee of people, like maybe get some of the ladies to throw in some words, or if one of the ladies wants to GM, Mrs. Kelly, she ran a game last time.
Do you want to make those three elements ad-libbed? As in, instead of you picking them, you might create a very big group of words, or maybe you could create a sentence or a few sentences and do the ad-lib thing where it's like verb, noun, blah, blah, blah.
We could. I like the idea of it being the same for every GM. Because there's
sure.
supposed to be a competition, so it would be fun, and it'll be a fun competition. Real. So it'll be fun. Yeah, we could do a lottery of words. We could have pick a lot of cool words.
That's not much different from ad lib.
I think the idea was like item, antagonist, and then chaos element. That was the idea.
Sure.
Something to weird things out.
Yeah, lottery of words.
Oh, Elle's got a good one. Maybe one night. Don't do it tonight because I'm not ready. Audience shouts 3 words and Randy picks we could pick a top 3. We could write them all down and that'd be fun. But it'd be better if the DMs didn't know and just the day of you have 1 hour to write an adventure that incorporates all 3 things.
Sure. You spring it on them.
Yeah.
But the calling out of the words could happen then.
Yeah. I don't think this will be my strength, but I think I'll enjoy it. It'll be fun. The challenge would be fun. We got several people I think that could do a better job than me in that arena. So, yeah, not bad. Get one of
those brass roller things like for bingo with words on paper in it. Oh, that kind
spin
of roller
it and
thing.
pull it out.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. Yeah, we'll figure it out. That'll be fun time. We'll do that. We'll get some people. Oh, yeah. Not bad. Martin says
have a D20 version of the roller bin.
Yeah. Not bad. Cool.
All right.
Idea.
We have gone over 2 hours. That means we need to skedaddle.
We do. Yeah.
So Is there anything else you'd like to talk about, plug, say anything?
No, man, nothing for me. I think I'm good.
Any more words?
Yep.
If not, this is Joe.
And I'm Randy.
And remember, if you can't be big like us, then be geeks like us. Links in the show notes.